Tell us what made you guys initially want to go to uni in the first place.
I imagine it as like a jigsaw puzzle, right? And that sounds good. That's sort of the route that we want to go down. In this episode, we discuss myself and Jack's journey from what it looked like from 12-year-old Adam and Jack to sitting here now at 20-year-old Adam and Jack, and everything that we've experienced along the way, the lessons that we've learned, and really a few thought-provoking situations that we found ourselves in that I really do think will be interesting to many listeners, and especially the ones that haven't really got to know us yet or don't know anything about us. I think personally as well, we want this piece to be out there for the foreseeable, for us to look back on and relate back to, even if it's in 6 months' time or 6 years' time. But I think for the guys and for the people that are listening that haven't even got an understanding of who we are as people, I think this episode is great for that. And hopefully when listening for future episodes, we're going to be much more relatable to you. So definitely think you should go and check this episode out, give it a listen. Like always, let us know what you think, and I hope you enjoy.
Good morning, boys.
Good morning.
How are we?
I'm feeling good this morning.
Good stuff.
There's not many mornings that I wake up not feeling good, in all honesty.
That's good to hear.
A bit of an early one again, though, isn't it? It's always got to be early, hasn't it, to squeeze in these episodes?
Yeah. Last week I was so excited for the early one, and this week it killed me off a bit getting up this early. But
I've had a gallon of coffee already just to try and wake me up a little bit this morning.
Yeah, good stuff. But yeah, I suppose on today's episode, people will be able to get a bit more of an in-depth story into your guys' background about. Some people might not even know that you guys started university.
I know. Well, I think that's obviously the headline of this episode is about our journey through university, and I know that we said on last episode that we don't really, this series and this platform isn't really for me and Jack. It's to talk about the business, but I think it's going to be beneficial for people. And it, like you said, because we was discussing the formats of these episodes and what shall we post and when, and you said, didn't you, that you think it's actually quite an important thing that people get an understanding of who we are as people first, 100%. And then we can start to talk about the business. So that's why in the last episode it was a little bit of we blasted absolutely everything, didn't we, last episode?
Yeah.
This one, obviously, it's going to be around myself and
Jack's.
More
focused.
Yeah, a little bit more focused around myself and Jack's journey. And then we can get into the juicy topics from here on in.
Love that. So yeah, tell us what made you guys initially want to go to uni in the first place. What was all that about?
Do you have a distinctive factor of what made us want to go? No, I think it was kind of why a lot of people go to uni, in terms of they just sort of, that was the next step for them. Like out of sixth form, it's either you go get an apprentice job or uni. You don't really have much other directions you can go in, and I guess for us it was sort of, that's just what felt right, and it's what we knew. I think you grow up, especially in this era, and you sort of have education as this plan that you normally have to stick to. And I think that was the case with university for us. We'd finished sixth form, we'd done really well at sixth form, and then it just sort of seemed that the next thing is university, when in actual fact, hopefully after this discussion, we can really highlight that maybe it's not the be all and end all. Yeah. But no way are we advocating university isn't a good thing for people. No, absolutely no chance. Because we'll also touch on your journey a little bit, because I know from previous chats we've both had completely different experiences with uni.
And it's changed our outlook on, like, I suppose, on the way we look at business, or like just different things, because I suppose it's such a time consuming part of your life, and you have to sort of, it's hard because from very early on you have to make that decision of knowing what you want to study, knowing what you want from life, at such a young age.
Yeah.
And I think it's just hard that so many people don't know, and you see people end up figuring out when they're like 40 years old, like, this is what I want to do in life. And we're told at like 16, pick your A levels, and then by the time you're 18, you're going to be doing something for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like when you actually deep it, it's a little bit mad.
I know.
And it's like people who study things like medicine, they have to do like work experience from the age of like 12, 13 onwards. And you just think like, how do you expect people to know what they want to do from that early on?
I agree on that point, and I think for absolute majority of people, you ask someone at 12, 13 years old, what do you want, or when you're picking your options at GCSE, so you're year 9, and what are you're about 12, 13
like
at year
that,
9, aren't you? And you're expected to pick your options for what you're going to study for the next 3 years. And fortunately, whenever somebody used to ask me this question, or whenever people ask me recently, you know, how did you know exactly what you was going to do?
Yeah.
And the answer is, I don't think anybody knows what you're going to do, but
No.
I imagine it as like a jigsaw puzzle, right? And back when we was 12, 13, we just knew we wanted a career in football coaching, and that was it.
Yeah.
We wasn't sure as to what it would look like or how we'd get there, but we knew that that's what we wanted.
So we knew from 12, 13 that our end goal is to have a career in football coaching. And at that point, that's all we knew. So if you asked us any questions about how you're going to make it work, it was, well, I don't know, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And it was very much like that. But as the years progress, and maybe as life experiences and education, you start to then put together a bit of a rational plan of, actually, this is how I'm going to make it work. And so as the years developed and as that question got asked more and more, we was able to give a bit of a longer, more detailed answer. But you asked us at 12, 13, and it was just, I want a career in football coaching, which is still much more than what you'd normally expect from an average 12, 13-year-old.
Exactly, because
you
you
ask
have
a 12,
long-term vision.
13-year-old and it would genuinely be, I've got no idea. Or they'd say something in 3 years' time, it might change, and then in another 2 years, it changes.
I'm guilty of that.
But that's sort of that's normally what you'd expect to see.
Yeah.
Whereas with us, we sort of knew what we wanted from such a young age. We just didn't know how we was going to get it.
Yeah.
And which I suppose we figured out over the years, didn't we?
How did you go about figuring that out? Like, what did the process look like of a long-term vision of becoming football coaches to almost the stage you're at now, where you're running a business and you're hiring coaches? And
So I guess we were very fortunate because our dad's also been involved in the football coaching industry. So from as early as 12, we was working for my dad. We was there with him and we was helping. And I guess the people that we met early on sort of had an influence in what we wanted to do. So we'd seen coaches who'd come and they'd come and do the work, and then through the summer they'd be in America and they'd be coaching in America, and they'd tell us all the stories of their experiences of coaching in America and where they've been. So I guess dead early on, being around those sort of people who at the time were around mid-20s, 30s, like they'd experienced it, we sort of looked up to those sort of people, didn't we? And we were like, well, that sounds good. That's sort of the route that we want to go down. So I guess that sort of evolved from, that's where the vision of just wanting to be a football coach, because primarily it was in America. We wanted to go to America, didn't we?
Initially we did,
and do like the summer camps and stuff, just because of the stories we'd been told by these other coaches, and we're like, well, that sounds class. We'd love to do that. So from that point, really, that's sort of what shaped the idea of wanting to become a football coach. And we'd seen these people make a living off it, so we knew it was possible. So we have that to thank, really. Then, I don't know, I guess I struggle with why we ever went to uni.
I do want to get to like the root of that. What? Because you guys had
let's dive into that then, and then we can maybe go back to obviously a bit of the background stuff. But
because we were so switched on prior to uni, in terms of this is what we want, this is what we're going to go get. But sort of going to uni sort of made us take a step back. Uni never pushed us forward. It made us go back.
Well, I remember you guys, even from high school, were just very much like, opportunity grabbers. Like, you were go-getters. You thought of something and you followed through and you just did it. And uni is one of those experiences where it's kind of like a delayed gratification thing. You have to ride out the 3+ years, and then you finally get the outcome.
1,000,000%.
Whereas that pays off in certain respects. There's certain things you have to do to get to do that, like law, medicine, whatever it might be. But for business, it's a different story, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's rewind back to, it'd have been 2018, the summer of 2018. We'd just got our A-levels. We'd just done 2 years at Oldham sixth form. And they were brilliant 2 years, weren't they? Like, we didn't really enjoy school life. We never really enjoyed the education side. But the sixth form college, we actually did enjoy. It was a good couple of years. Primarily because it was all sport.
It was finally something that we wanted to do.
Yeah. So what A-levels did you guys do?
We did. It was actually, at the time, it was called CamTech, wasn't it? But that was short for like a Cambridge Technology in Sport.
Nice.
So it was equivalent to 3 A-levels. And it basically meant that that's all we studied because it was 3 A-levels. There was when we went, because we also did well in GCSE, so when we went for like our induction at the sixth form, they tried to say, you know, you could do these 3 A-levels and maybe a 1 A-level alongside it. But for us, again, it just wasn't
that
the focus, and nothing attracted us to maths or English or biology.
Anything else other than sport.
Other than sport.
Zero interest.
Yeah. So when that got sold to us, we was just like, I'd just rather stick with the 3 A-levels.
This is for us.
It was still good coming out of sixth form with 3 A-levels. It was, you know, it did as well. So that's primarily why we enjoyed those 2 years, because it was just sport every day. It was everything related with sport, the mindset, the way athletes think, the way they train. Everything was revolved around sport. So I think that's why we enjoyed those 2 years.
Was that like half theory, half practical?
Yes, there was I think it was still more so theory based, so it's still a lot more classroom based. But I think we did do like,
I think it
3
was
or
a
4 hours
60-40 split.
Yeah, we did like 3 or 4 hours
That's
a
good
week
then.
where it was practical. Funny enough, they also though on a Wednesday afternoon, it was like college football, wasn't it? So you could play for the college team, and Wednesday afternoon was when you sort of went and played other colleges. We never got involved in it.
Why? Why is that?
Playing's. I see.
You guys are coaches, aren't you?
I see playing completely different to coaching it. I wanted to coach the college team.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to. I had no interest
Really?
in
That's
playing in the
interesting.
college team, because at that point, now it's only sort of that we're reflecting back on it and thinking, oh, would it be good if we went back playing and stuff? But at the time, we were so deep in coaching that playing didn't even enter our minds, and it didn't even interest us. So when these trials were happening for the college team, we just didn't go for it, and we just much preferred the coaching. It's only now really that we're reflecting back and thinking, flipping.
We should have played. Maybe.
I'd love a game of Saturday League or even Sunday League at this point. I'd take it. But if it weren't for the risk of injury, we'd go for it. Yeah,
anything, just anything at this point.
Play FIFA Street in the park. But back to the question, really. So, like, why we went to university. So, summer 2018, come out of college, good A-levels. And then it was sort of in that summer period, because you finish college quite early in your last year, and you go to your first year of uni quite late. So I think we had about 5 to 6 months really in 2018 where
it's a good summer, wasn't it?
It was a very good summer, but we're not ones that just sort of sit around and do nothing. So
we've seen it through this COVID.
Yeah.
You know, we've not really stopped, and I think everybody's sort of. Oh, at least our minds haven't stopped, have they? Practically, we've not been on the pitch, but our minds certainly haven't stopped, and that's exactly how we've always been. So we couldn't, for 5 to 6 months, having that gap, be like, oh, we're just going to sit here and do nothing or have the typical summer that a normal 18-year-old would have, and you know that just never interested us. So straight away we was thinking like, right, what are we going to do to fill up our time? And at this point, and I really do want to go into the full story. So we started doing some, at this point, some goalkeeper sessions. So we was, like Jack mentioned, we was just kind of working for my dad. We were still in and around the grassroots industry. So we was doing team training. And then we also developed a good relationship with the goalkeeper coach. So we started doing some goalkeeper sessions, and he was quite busy with one particular group on a Friday evening. So and at that point we had nothing on a Friday evening. So we said, and again, not normally would you expect an 18-year-old to give up a Friday evening, but that's how we wanted to spend our life, and that's what we wanted to do. So Friday evening came around and we was getting in and around goalkeepers, and we was always intelligent enough to know the basics of goalkeeping, and we learned a lot through this goalkeeper coach. He did a lot of research on goalkeeping, so we had that understanding, but we was never driven by goalkeeping.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't goalkeeper coaches. I actually had a stint of a goalkeeper.
Like under nines. But Adam is the only player I know who's gone from a striker to a goalkeeper back to a striker.
So I did one season, but other than that, we didn't really have much interest in goalkeeping. So anyway, we developed a good relationship with him, and he was doing one-to-ones as well, but he's an extremely busy guy and was rammed with one-to-ones.
Yeah.
So he started to offload a couple of them to us, didn't he? And that was like in the summer of 2018. But at this point, we had nothing. We didn't have uniform. We didn't really have facilities. We definitely didn't have equipment. No social media. It was just myself and Jack turning up on a Sunday afternoon doing 3 or 4 goalkeeper sessions.
Right.
And that was the case probably for 3 or 4 months, because we used to referee as well.
Yeah.
So we used to referee on a Sunday morning. We used to get up at Sunday morning at about 6 a.m. Drive.
You guys are
we
mad.
used to drive to Haywood and referee a league, and we did that for 2 or 3 seasons. 2 seasons or 3 seasons.
3, I think it were.
I think it was 3 in the end.
I think we started at 17 there.
Yeah.
Oh no, maybe 2 then.
No, it started with Dad dropping us off.
So was we
it'd be-
16?
it would
Can
be-
you ref as early as 16?
I'm sure you can. I'm sure we were 16, because then at 17 we was driving. And we used to drive ourselves then, didn't we? So it'd been 16.
Two or 3
2 or 3
seasons
seasons
anyway.
really. So we used to do that from we used to get up at 6 a.m, do that 7 till 1, jet across back to Rochdale, do sessions 2 till 4, and then we'd finally chill for a little. Well, it wouldn't even be out of choice of chilling. We just collapse on a Sunday night, wouldn't
Just
we?
from being tired.
Yeah.
How did that feel though? Like, obviously, you must have just been going, which
it, though.
you guys love.
Yeah.
And it's still the same now.
And this
Yeah.
is it. Like we've always said, we've been self-aware enough to know we're different in the sense that we will not stop until we achieve what we want, and
Yeah.
we will do whatever it takes to get there. But we've also been self-aware enough that we're not gonna let that stop us from doing what like a normal person our age would do. So it's like that. Even though we knew we were up at 6 a.m. on Sundays, the Saturday nights, if like our friends were having a house party, or
It was house parties.
it was
at that
house
time.
parties, 'cause we weren't old enough to go out, but like we'd still go and do that. So we'd be getting in at like 3, going back out at 6, and
God.
There was
The-
some
I mean,
rough- there was some rough.
yeah, there's obviously the sacrifices of not getting too Larry, but
Yeah.
it was more so the tiredness, weren't
Yeah.
But we'd never let that stop us.
Yeah.
And even though on the Sundays we dragged ourselves through it, a couple of weeks later we'd do it all again, because we knew that we are this way. But if we don't sort of do these experiences that everyone else around us is doing,
Yeah.
by the time we get to a point where we're able to start relaxing a little bit, and we look back and we've not done those experiences, we'll be kicking ourselves for it.
Yeah.
100%.
So we just said to ourselves, we'll just grind it through for the next.
We've tried to
5-10 years.
I
keep
respect
a
that a
balance
lot.
of them both,
Yeah.
haven't
Yeah.
we? Obviously, the one that has sacrificed the most is the normal life
Yeah.
of a teen, really, isn't
Yeah.
it? That has been the biggest sacrifice, but it's not something that bothers me.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'd much
I'd
rather.
rather
be,
I'd rather be sitting in this position now, going through what we've gone through,
Yeah.
than sort of not going through what we've gone through.
because we got good people
knows?
around us now.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
close friends, and that's all we need. And like Jack said, we was never really the type to get too drunk anyway, so we
Yeah.
didn't really. That never
That
really
lifestyle
interested
didn't
us.
really interest you, yeah.
It was just more like Jack said, the tiredness,
Yeah,
because
no, I
we
can
wouldn't
relate
want to
to
go
that.
home because we wouldn't want to miss out, but we
Yeah.
knew that we couldn't drink because
Yeah.
we'd wake up the next morning,
And
but
you'd
we
feel
wouldn't
rough.
wake up the next morning, would we?
Yeah.
But like Jack said, it was just more the tiredness more than anything. But we keep getting distracted off the main question of how we fell
I
into
know.
unit
yeah.
anyway.
It all relates to your story.
It does
though,
all
so-
relate to the story, so it's important to know. But let me go back to that for a second.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. The Sunday mornings with the referee and the Sunday afternoons with the goalkeeper sessions, and it started to pick up a little bit of pace. We've always, I'd like to think anyway, and going off sort of feedback, we're quite good when it comes to the parent and the player and creating an experience. So that sold quickly, didn't it? And word of mouth took off, and we started to attract even more goalkeepers. But then it was a case of, well, their goalkeeper going back to the team, mum might be in the playground or dad might be on the sidelines, and they mention it that the son's doing one-to-ones, and then all of a sudden the outfield players want to come on board. So it was probably just before university that we were still working primarily with goalkeepers. However, we'd had an interest of outfield players. And when to get a bit of an understanding of the point we're at, especially if you're a one-to-one coach already, you'll have an understanding of sort of how many clients you need and stuff. I think we were sharing 6, weren't we?
Yeah.
So we had 3 clients each a week. And at this point we were charging £20 an hour, wasn't it? Because we had nowhere near the amount of costs as we've got now.
Yeah.
And we was on £20 an hour. They were our prices. And so fast forward, it's uni's approaching, we submit our applications, and even when submitting our applications, we was a little bit like, I don't really know why we're doing this, but it's a sports business and coaching degree, and it's what we've set ourselves up for from 12-year-old. So maybe it just makes sense to go and do a sports business and coaching degree.
But you was already feeling a little bit reluctant, maybe.
Yeah. Because again, it's going back into education for another 3 years, and we was like, that education never interested us. No. So it was fast approaching. University was around the corner, and at this point we had 3 clients each, 6 clients in total. Then we sort of we go to our uni, we do all the induction process and stuff, and while I'm sat in these inductions, we know we've got like a player or 2 later that evening, and all I'm thinking about is the session plans, or it's the setting up the social media, or because we had one thing at the minute that we was going to, which was all theory based. It was all, if we get this degree, then we can implement it. And then we was living like a second life, which was as soon as we walk out of, we was actually at the Etihad Stadium, so we was in the stadium doing all our induction and stuff. Facilities and campus is brilliant, but that was all theory driven. Yeah. And then we had one side which was like, well, we're actually doing it, and that's much more practical. And we was always attracted to the practical side, weren't we? So we had all these thoughts going on while we was actually trying to sit down and listen to lectures and stuff, and it just was not working. I think we went to 2 lectures. We'd missed 2 deadlines already because
I don't think we ever submitted a piece of work, Adam.
Well, no, we didn't, but we was late for a couple of deadlines. They were trying to give us extension upon extension, saying that, look, they even said to us basically his first year doesn't count. So because
anything to just get
the lecturer got wind of the fact that we was having these doubts and wanting to leave, and we was always transparent with them and said, look, this is our ideas, this is where we want to go, this is what we've got at the minute. But so they got downwind of that, and they was like, look, we can give you extension on this deadline and give you extension on this deadline, and in actual fact, you don't have to come in this winter, because it was like it was heading into winter time. So they said, don't actually bother coming in winter, and we can catch you up next summer in preparation for year 2.
Jesus.
And we was like, but we thought about it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did think about it.
And then I thought, well, we say yes to this, and we're in this position now. What if in 5 months' time we're in an even better position, and then we bloody have to go back to uni all summer?
Yeah.
When it's textbook the most busiest time for coaching companies through the summer. We was like, we don't want to be out of that. We don't want to do that.
No. On what point of this timeline was AJ 1-to-1 created?
So it's a good question. You go ahead with this one.
AJ 1-to-1 wasn't actually created then, really.
Okay.
It was sort of just us doing it, and we actually. It's funny. I can't remember the exact date or in the timeline where this sits, but I remember a conversation in one of the meeting rooms at the venue that we was running our sessions at, and it was just me, Adam, and my dad in there again, and we were going to call it J&A's 1-to-1, weren't we? Or J&A's 1-to-1 football
Jack was
coaching.
born first.
Because I'm the older brother, so he's 6 minutes earlier than me, so I was going to go J&A's. And then that sort of didn't sit right. We weren't sure.
It doesn't sound good, does it?
And then Dad went, well, just swap it round, say AJ, because obviously AJ can be a name as well, and it sort of rings better. So that's how AJ 1-to-1 was born. Like that's how the name came about. But
very creative, by the way, right?
It sounds good though, doesn't it?
It rolls.
Sort of, yeah, it rolls.
Rolls off the top of the chin.
J&A.
But where it sits in the timeline, officially incorporating as a company was last July. So that's,
Really?
Yeah, that's where it was.
Became a limited company.
That was where it was officially born.
Right.
Prior to that, I think we'd done around 6 months of like it was full time, self-employed.
Yeah, I get you.
Like that's how the journey started. But prior to that, I'm not sure sort of where anything sits.
We
kind of
brought the goalkeeper coach on in October, it would have been, wouldn't it? Just before the new year, really. So the goalkeeper coach, October 2018. Zach, if anyone's seen on our website or seen Zach kicking about on our social media, he's still with us now, and you know he's growing as a coach and just as a man as well, because when he came on board he was 15,
I think so.
15.
Yeah.
Wow.
So obviously a couple of years of working like alongside him and stuff. He's a quality guy.
Development and growth. Yeah.
So that's really nice to see. So he was our first sort of coach that came on board and helped us out. He took our goalkeepers off us, really, because he is a goalkeeper coach. He's been goalkeeper all his life.
But I remember even when we brought Zach on, we never really had a uniform.
It was never really. It was still weren't formalised. It was still like Zach's there to take the goalkeepers off us, which then the inquiries we were getting for outfield we took up, and it really. And when I say inquiries, it really wasn't like it is today, where it's 10 to 15 inquiries a day. It was very much just as and when we got the work, and we'd say yes, and there were no policies in place, there was no cancellation fees, or there was just
you were just
nothing.
figuring it out,
there was just nothing there.
Yeah, that's
more
nice.
than anything, we were just grateful that we can be on a pitch,
making money off
and
this,
somebody's
and
willing
and someone's willing to pay our service to coach the kid. More than anything, the parents trusting us with the kid, trusting us to develop this kid. It was something that we've been passionate about, and I've done for what would it have been at that point, sort of 4 or 5 years for nothing.
6
and six years for nothing, and all of a sudden, you know, so more than anything in that position, it was just a massive sense of gratefulness, and it was just overwhelming just to be able to say that we're on the pitch being paid for what we what we love. So in terms of officializing everything, we brought that sort of, it only took about a month and a half for me and you to become fully booked, didn't it? Then we brought in the early 2019, sort of end of Jan, start of Feb. That's when we brought on our second coach, well, third coach if you're including fourth coach, if you're including me and you and Zach. But it was sort of another outfield coach, so 3 outfield coaches, 1 goalkeeper coach. And then it just sort of snowballed from there, didn't it? Really,
and even at that point, I think at that point. So what would we be at now? January, February time, 2019.
Right.
This would be, wouldn't it?
So still AJ not being formalised as a company,
at that point,
but growing.
At that point we had our first set of uniform and first logo.
Nice.
Which was horrendous. It weren't nice.
I want to see the first version of the logo.
I still have the uniform. I keep it as like a memorabilia now. It's under my bed. So
it was like
I'd be like AJ One-to-One legacy. Like.
Yeah, it was like navy blue. The logo I designed myself, and it was just like a circle with like a man in the middle, and then our name underneath. Like it was horrendous.
Yeah.
So even at that point, we were still figuring it all out. It wasn't
our uniform with 3 different shades of navy as well. Like the t-shirt didn't match the pants, and it had a high gloss baggy look as well.
Yeah.
So you guys need style and fashion.
But we got uniform for about 50 quid each, and now you know every time we're bringing on a new staff member, it costs us a couple of £100 in just uniform because we go with Nike. But
everyone who gets coached by you knows how good it looks now.
True.
It's all very sharp.
Yeah. But the point is, back then it wasn't professionalised, and we didn't know.
And that's what I mean. It was sort of there, but wasn't.
Yeah.
Like there was the logo and the name at this point, but it was nothing. It wasn't something that we were sort of.
It was very passion led still, weren't it? Like we've always been motivated and passionate about it. So like Jack said, we was there in that moment, but nothing was happening alongside it. Like it was kind of going in no direction.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by the Online Growth Agency. These guys really are a one-stop shop for everything media-orientated. Whether it be a web design, a complete rebrand, or just your social media. They're the guys that are behind our website and our social media. I really do think you should check them out. www.theonlinegrowthagency.com.
I guess then the next sort of milestone was around September time of 2019 it would have been. And that's when it sort of became apparent that it is something that we can sort of run with, because that's when we hired 2 more coaches as well, just to cope with the demand. So at that point there were, how many?
6 of us.
6 of us.
Nice.
And I think at this point we was at 2 separate venues as well. So at that point I think that's when it sort of clicked with us that it is something that we can sort of run with, and it's possible that this could be our future.
And that it's worth noting as well, through that period of about 4 or 5 months, that's when our social media grew quite a lot, wasn't it? And
yes.
Was it?
We get so many questions about the growth of social media and how to grow your own social media and stuff. And the biggest shift for us, and one thing that we had to have a discussion about, and it was about September time, 2019, we grew quite a lot of followers because we was posting content like hitting the crossbar at halfway line, and that was a great video.
Yeah,
I
that was a
absolutely
class
loved
video.
that. Or like just top bin shots on no look penalties. Like we just did a lot of content like that because we had the time. When we started to get a little bit busier with sessions ourselves, we no longer had that time just to sort of mess about for an hour and take that type of content. So we grew quite a lot of followers because that was the style of content we were putting out. But we realized like we don't want to be a page or platform. We're not the F2 freestylers.
Yeah.
So there's content out there if that's the type of content you want. We genuinely, going back to our mission statement of just wanting to influence and impact as many people as possible, we knew that that's not really having an impact. It's got great entertainment value, but not really bringing anything to the table. It doesn't really share any sort of knowledge or ideas, or it just carries nothing with it other than the entertainment value.
Yeah.
So we shifted the way we was marketing ourselves from that style of content to where we was quite like community driven, where we wanted to create content that coaches can use, that players can look at and save drills and go and do on their own. And we just really wanted to sort of share that message over, look at this, we can hit top right 30, 40 yards out. And that's sort of why the growth, I mean, it's picking back up a little bit now again, isn't it? Because we're starting to attract that audience that we want to attract. But we always say, we could have thousands more followers, tens of thousands more followers if we started putting out that type of content again, because that carries great entertainment value. But we don't want a platform like that. We want a platform that's really going to be meaningful for the people following us.
Right. So is it for you guys? I just suppose it's more about creating value. Than it is
massively.
just entertainment
Definitely.
or just followers for the sake of followers.
Of course, there's an element of which we focus, and people that look at our social media will know how, even this podcast, for example, the quality of the podcast, like we focus so much on making sure 100%. That it's still entertaining and still pleasurable and enjoyable to watch and listen. But for us, it is much more, well, how much value is that? Every piece of content we look at and think, well, how much value are we adding to someone there?
And you can see that in your content. I mean, from an outsider looking at other sports pages, coaching pages in particular, your content is much more high production, intentional. It's like, it's not done for the sake of just being put out.
Yeah.
And I think people appreciate that.
No. Well, I hope so, because that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah. But I think that's sort of like, that's where big shift number 1 happened, weren't it?
Yeah.
Around that end of 2019. And then it was the beginning of 2020. There was...
But we only had 3 months, didn't we? We had January... A year on today. The date of recording this is a year on since the lockdown. The very first lockdown.
Yeah, lockdown anniversary today.
Nice. A year on
Happy
today.
Happy
lockdown anniversary.
Love that. So yeah, big shift number 1 was around realising that this is something that we can run with, and this is something that we can do. And at this point, we'd sort of then streamlined what we want our social media to look like, all the marketing. I think at that point, we'd got a new logo and new uniform as well.
Nice.
So everything sort of felt better, didn't it, at that point? we were more busy. We had more players coming in, and then at the start of 2020, we was in Norway.
We got probably the biggest thing that I remember from the start. From 2020, it's been an absolute whirlwind of a year that we've still got to digest, really, because it's been very much a case of just survival mode. So we've got to digest everything that's happened in 2020. But one thing that I think I can vividly remember is that opportunity we got to go over to Norway. So basically, in the summer of 2020, we even announced it. We was going over to Norway, and we had the plans in place to run a camp in June 2020, and we'd done all the advertisement and marketing in Norway, and we'd got 80 players signed up for the camp. And we had this brilliant indoor facility, and everything was in place. So it was like late February that we'd planned to go over to. We were flying out from London, and it was only for 2 nights. One night, 2 days, really. So we drove down to London on the Monday night, then took a flight early Tuesday morning to Norway because we had a meeting with like the venue owner and the guys, because obviously we can't be in Norway doing 6 weeks of marketing to try and sell it and stuff. So we had quite a few people over in Norway that was giving us a hand on that. So we flew out to just basically meet with all these people and say, this is how we want it to run. And more than anything, it was to showcase what we're able to do as coaches as well. So we was only there, I think, just over 24 hours, but we crammed. I think we slept maybe 4 hours of that. Didn't really sleep at all, because we was having meetings left, right, and centre. We was coaching players left, right, and centre.
We were go see new venues. I think we've seen about 4 or 5 different venues. We wanted to understand the area that we was going to be doing the camping. So we ended up going down like loads of walks down to like it sounds daft, but like fish markets and stuff, like everything that Norway had to offer. We crammed in like just over 24 hours, because we wanted to speak to as many people as possible, see as many things as possible, because we knew our time there was limited, and the next time we was going to get over was probably a few days before we was about to run the camp. So we really wanted to make the most out of that day that we had there. So we didn't do really any sleeping, did we? But we captured a bit of content as well, because we wanted to publish it for like our UK audience. So we captured some footage. And I remember on the plane home, getting back into London, it's only about an hour and a half flight, isn't it, from UK to Norway? If that, I think. It's not really long. And we sat on the plane, didn't we, on our way home, editing that video. It's so crazy, because even at that point, we was probably just over half the size of what we are now. And that's just mad to think that
you got to have an opportunity like that.
No, on the other hand, that's one part of our journey that I really, really try and forget and not think about, because it kills me to know that, it would have been about 7 or 8 months in, we had this opportunity to go to Norway with 5 of our coaches all paid for.
Wow.
With 80 players.
This is the saddest part about it. The room that the place that we was being put up in was on the top floor of a shopping centre in an apartment. So we had the top floor apartment in a shopping centre for 5 of our coaches. We was actually over there for our 19th birthday as well. Everything was signed over. It'd have been our 20th. Oh yeah,
everything was signed over.
That's class.
And then COVID hit. Literally on our flight back from Norway, from the same airport, planes were getting grounded because of news that was being brought out. Coming in. I think at the same time that we was in there, in the airport, the ferries weren't allowed to dock or anything. So it was it was all happening whilst we were over there, and then not to be able to get back out was just gutting. Not only did we not get out for the June which we planned, we then rearranged it for August. Was it?
It was. They have a holiday over in like autumn time.
Scattered,
but we was going over in their autumn holiday when it matched up with the schools, and same thing happened again. It got cancelled, but we'd done all the prep for it. We'd done the virtual meetings, we'd done the calls, and we'd done it twice, and we had the same 80 people. And I think this time as well, they'd paid deposits because it was so close and it was looking so promising that we could get out there. And then bang, UK back into a lockdown.
Oh, that's awful.
So it's definitely it's one part of the journey that I try and not think about because it's very, very gutting.
Yeah.
But it's not all that bad because the relationships we've developed, more than anything, it's made the people that we was working with or was meant to be working with even more eager for us to come back as and when travel opens up and allows. And that certainly is something that we've got. Well, the beauty of the position we're in now is the planning for that's pretty much
it's all done, isn't it? Yeah.
We've had a year to plan it, basically.
So that's still on the cards for when
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 everything reopens, we're getting back out there.
I think it was only about a week and a half ago I spoke to our main guy that's helping us organise it out there, and he was super keen. He was like, within the next few weeks, could you get out? And I was like, if we could, we would. But it's just that we can't go anywhere until, and especially close to us opening up our centres here. I think technically we could go out because it is for work, but we could go out, but then we'd have to isolate in Norway. Yeah. Then we'd have to isolate. So it's
a lot of hassle, isn't it?
For a week's camp, it'd basically be 5 weeks that would be wiped out.
So it's just a trade-off for now.
So being that close to returning just wasn't an option for us. So like Jack says, as much as it's something we try and forget, it's not all that doom and gloom. Yeah. It was devastating because it was such a big opportunity, but it still is a big opportunity that is still going to happen. Yeah. So that's how we've got to try and think about it. But
that was February time, weren't it?
And then obviously lockdown from March, and then we was actually given the green light to reopen June, July, August. When was Help Out to Eat Out? Was that August?
That was like July, August time, I think.
August,
September rather.
June we was. I remember because we was open for our birthday. Yeah.
You got I think I know you're definitely open in July because that's when I started to do some filming for you guys.
June was open, but it's when I think 1-to-1s was allowed, but it was only at Bolton. There was only our facility in Bolton that was open.
Yeah, this whole COVID time's been a blur.
It has
been
just trying to recall it all. Yeah,
even though our sessions have stopped, the sort of back end of the business hasn't stopped, and instead has accelerated for whatever reason. But then we were having this chat the other day, weren't we? Yeah. We can't put our finger on why it has, but it has. And let me take you through the journey then of what's happened really since we got into lockdown. We got put into lockdown. And that sort of, the only positive thing that came from lockdown is it gave me and Adam time to think about what's happened and think about where we want to take the business and you know, what have we got to do to sort of get there.
Alongside survival mode of putting out live streams and doing online training.
So it was like a catch-22. We wanted to do all this. We were dead hopeful that this is our aim. And then the other side of it was, you're doing live sessions and it's like just a drag. But we were looking at where we wanted to go and everything and what direction we wanted to take. And we then incorporated on 12th of June, I think it were, or mid-June time anyway. So at that point, when we became a limited company, that was out of like, at that point, moving forward, that's where it's a company for us now. Yeah. That's like serious go. Yeah. And it's been ever since then, the sort of we've seen a more professional side to it all.
There was a whole restructure, everything just professionalised. And that's why when people say, when was AJ created? Well, you could technically say AJ was created at 12-year-old because it's who we are and it was always what we wanted. But if you're going down the official terms and when really you saw a shift and change, it was last July.
Yeah. And that's where big shift number 2 happened. At that point, we got ourselves our first office. Yeah. So we was in the office. That happened February time. Yeah. That happened February time. And so we was in our first office. And then we was at a point then of around July time, I think it was, of bringing on another member full time, which happened, and then we were still in the 2-man office, our old office, and it was sort of like we'd outgrown that then. Yeah. So then we were sort of looking for new areas, like where to go and stuff, and then we found this place in September time, was it? No, October?
I think we'd seen it September, but by the time it had all gone through and everything, it was like October when we started to move in.
So you've got to think in that time, we'd only been at the our old office for 6 or 7 months.
That is
But
just
only
crazy.
traded
Only
2
trading.
months, June,
Yeah.
July.
So
Wow.
it's like, how have we? And we can't put our finger on it. It's like, how have we still grown? How have we moved out of an office? How have we hired new coaches whilst only trading for 3 months of the 6 or 7 that we've been in that office?
What do you What do you think it could be like? What ideas are in your head as to why it's grown like that during such like?
There's got to be an element that you can't. It's very much inquiry driven though as well. Like we couldn't do that without the support and players wanting to come and work with us. So that's obviously a big factor.
Yeah.
I think the second to that is it sort of gave me and Adam time to sit back and think.
Yeah, because before that it'd just been like full throttle.
It was just like us coaching all
Yeah.
the time, bang, bang, bang. Whereas when we were able to sort of sit back and look at, well, what is it that we need to do? What is better for the company than us? Like, not necessarily what's good for me and Adam.
Yeah.
What's good for the company and how can we sort of grow it the way we wanted to? And that was sort of the answer.
Yeah.
And we sort of, regardless of how much it cost or anything, it was just what we did.
Yeah.
And because we knew ultimately it's going to be better for the company. So then we got this place. Place is unbelievable.
Yeah, it
Absolutely
really is.
unbelievable.
a game changer. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
It really
It's
is.
brilliant.
And then we've, for some reasons, the person who we gave full time to is now left. So we were sort of like, well, that position needs filling. But then we sat back again and thought, there's more here. There's more than just one.
Yeah.
So then in the past month, we've hired 2 new full time members.
Yeah.
So it's like, again, we've grown there. So in the space of a year, we've moved out of an old office to a bigger one, double the size. We've hired
Quadruple.
Yeah,
it's massive.
We'll
It's
have
like
to do-
massively
We'll
bigger,
have to
innit?
do an office tour soon.
Yeah, 100%.
We've hired 2 new full time coaches. Sorry, staff.
Staff, yeah.
Because they're in the office too. We've not only have we moved to this office, but we've expanded our space on the floor again. So we've got more office space there.
yeah.
And we've done all these expansions and sort of restructures in the past 12 months when we've only been trading 3 or 4.
Well, out of 13, it'll have been 13 months by the time we actually get back to being on the pitch. And out of 13 months, we've traded 3 of them.
So it's sort of like
That's mad.
the only answer that I can give as to how that's happened is it's gave me and Adam time to sit back and think, how do we want this to grow? And then we figured out what we need to do for it to grow the way we want it.
Yeah.
And we've said, right, let's just do it. Let's do it. Let's see how it works.
The same, because I think you naturally get comfortable, don't you?
Yeah,
So
100%.
I think the same risk that 18-year-old Adam and Jack, the same anxiety, the same pressures, the same thoughts that 18-year-old Jack and Adam took when they dropped out of uni, we was like 20-year-old Jack and Adam.
Yeah.
Let's take those same risks. Let's think about those same pressures. Let's do all those things like we did back at 18-year-old. And that's exactly what we're doing. And Jack's exactly right with everything that he's just gone through and explained there. There's no other real answer other than the fact that we have focused so much on the back end side of it purely because we've had the time to.
Yeah.
So we've been working on the business, not necessarily in the business. When we go back and when we're so heavily involved on the pitch, we're very much working in the business then. So we've used this time to really develop it.
You built that strong foundation now.
Yeah. Strong foundation, strong structure. And I think one thing that we've always been huge on is we genuinely care about every single player and parent that comes to us.
Yeah.
And we still have a very much involvement in that contact side. Like for us to get our personal satisfaction, we still need that interaction on a personal level. Like that is one thing that we'll never outsource to somebody. Like we want to keep that because that's what feels good for us. So we've throughout all of this, we've tried to support our players best as possible. We've put out like online training programs. We've done the weekly Zoom check-ins, and I know part of our when we was in the second lockdown, we've launched a full sort of branch off our online training program, which was Mental Mondays, where we just organise everyone that signed up to the training program. We organised a weekly meeting on a Monday that was just 15-20 minutes where we checked in with the players. We've kept going with speaking to parents on the phone every day. Like, we've just been trying to keep that sense of positivity and community around it, because ultimately that's what keeps us sane. And, you know, we genuinely do care about every player and parent, and that was important for us to try and express through this time when everyone's sort of turning their back on one another, everything's shutting down, and everything's like, everyone's going to their own little rabbit holes in their home and not seeing one another and stuff. And it's been a very dark year, whereas we wanted to try and make sure that players and parents, because as a coach you are very influential to a player, and that's sometimes the 1 hour they look forward to in the week the most. So we knew we had a responsibility to make sure that our players felt like, you know, even we were still thinking about them, like no one had been forgotten, and we were still more than excited to get everybody back to the pitch, and that was massive for us, weren't it?
And I guess that's sort of like our story summed up there. That's everything that's gone on, and we're now sitting here at the point of having 4 centres that we can't wait to get back to. We've got a team of 13 coaches, so everything's looking really positive. We've got 156 players booked in for the first week back, and just honestly feeling the same level of gratefulness that we have had when we first started. Like with the parents being able to just trust us to run our service, is the same sort of gratefulness we have now. Only difference is it's on a wider scale. And we've got more gratefulness for the coaches who work with us, for the more parents that trust us. And I guess I'm just really, really excited. Because we've seen now, after this time of lockdown giving us to be able to put the foundations in place, we feel now we're at big shift number 3. And we can't tell you about that yet, because that's going to happen in the next 6 months or so. But hopefully we can have another sit down in 6 months and we can tell you about big shift number 3 and how it affected us. But that sort of sums up our story, doesn't it? And
pretty much.
Just really, really, really excited to sort of see where we can now go.
I suppose I have a question for both of you guys, and that it's just, have you put any thought into, so you're talking about expansion and growth and how it's all been going so well, and then Adam, you were making the point about one of the key things for like AJ as a business is that very like individual, personalised kind of like contact that you have with your players and the parents. Do you have any concerns about when you grow, you know, let's say infinitely, we don't know how big you'll grow, how you'll maintain that sort of like one-on-one contact with you guys being central to it?
That's a great question. And I think the only way to answer that is, of course, there's going to get to a point where I can only take so many calls during the day, or we can only work with so many players during the week. So we're not in denial that and it's even at that point now where players that come in might not necessarily be with me and Jack, but that's okay, because one of the biggest things that we focus on is our team. And the environment that we have within a team, the way that, I mean, not to go into too much detail, but every coach that comes on board with us goes through quite a rigorous few weeks of training, which doesn't sort of sculpt to them as a coach, but it does sort of shape them to
you're instilling your values,
our values, our model. So I'm confident in saying that, yes, as much as me and Jack, I mean, you know, the phone in the office is on my desk, like or the emails are managed by us, or the social media we're very much still in charge of, so we still oversee all of that. And albeit every call might not be, every message on social media might not be replied to by us, but you can guarantee that we have a very good understanding of everything that's going on.
It's sort of making it just accessible, making us accessible. Like, we might not be there at every minute of every day, but making sure that people know this is where and when they can get to us. I think that's sort of how we manage it while still growing.
But you're exactly right, and we want to feel that this isn't just a brand where you come for Adam and Jack.
No.
This is where you come for the brand, because you can expect everything to be like Adam and Jack.
And that's a credit to our team.
That is a huge credit to
all of our coaches.
And that's because that doesn't, you're exactly right, that doesn't come from, well, it's sort of, you could say it stems from me and Jack, but it's up to them to decide how they're going to behave and how they're going to act and stuff. And yeah, that's the answer to the question is, yes, we're not in denial. We know individually, myself and Jack can't speak to, coach, reply to absolutely everything and everybody, but we can oversee it all. We can, like Jack said, make sure we're accessible to the point where people know how, when, where to catch us. And also that regardless whether it's myself and Jack or whether it's Hugh, Jordan, you're going to get the same
We have
level
lots of faith and trust in our staff that they'll deliver the service
the
the way
exact
that we
same
would,
way
so.
that we would. And, you know,
So
that's...
working with a strong team.
Yeah,
it is.
massively.
It's huge credit to the team and one that we're, again, super grateful for, like everything else. But, yeah, the team that we've created has been massive for getting us to where we're at right now.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest stress we always say is AJ is like we always say he's like the face of the brand, but it is way more than just myself and Jack.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely no way that we could get to where we've got to now or get to where we're planning on getting to without the team that's behind us.
And I'm sure when we do sit down and talk about big shift number 3, there will be so much revolved around the people who are around us. And what happens will be an absolute credit and will only happen because of the people we have around us.
Well, that's it. This episode, naturally, about our story is going to be very much revolved
Oriented
around
out you guys,
us. But yeah, we even said at the start of this episode, didn't we, that, you know, it's moving forward, it very much is like, I can't wait to give you all guys an insight into, you know, the actual reality of everything.
Inner workings of AJ.
Yeah. Because there's, like, I keep saying it, but there's so much more to it than just myself and Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now's the time to show that, we think. So.
Yeah.
Definitely. But it's been nice, and I feel like for all the listeners to get that in-depth story about how you guys have got to where you are. What you
Hopefully
guys
now
did.
when they just listen to future episodes, we're a little bit more relatable.
Exactly,
because
yeah.
some might be listening that know us already or that do sessions with us already, but we might have a listener in Belgium or a listener in Ireland that have never met us and maybe never come across our social media as well. So I think more than anything, it's been important that people just have this opportunity to sort of get to know us like the people on the pitch that we work with every week and speak to every day.
We've never really sat down before and just been open about our story and sort of explained our story. So, you know, it's good to sort of just have that this piece here now for forever, really.
100%. And I've enjoyed listening to it as well. There's a lot I've learned.
It's the
I didn't
quietest
know
I've
about
ever
you guys.
heard you.
I know, I was just absorbing it. I'm just a top waffler, but I was, really enjoying the story. So I appreciate you guys sharing that with us today.
Cool. No, thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Thanks for your time. Yeah.
No problem.